welcome everybody. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday afternoon here at Savoy with us. Really appreciate you coming. We got a great program here, Drive Like a Girl with Sarah Montgomery. I don't know how many of you were here for the Shirley program, but Sarah was here, and so we were so excited that she had a weekend to come back and spend with us to talk about driving and kind of her growing up in racing. For those who don't know me, my name is Bruce Patton. I'm the Director of Curatorial Services, just curator, much easier to remember. And what I wanted to do first is talk about our current exhibition. So hopefully you got a chance to see some of those that are out here. And you may have noticed we had the movie cars. That was the one we just put in. So we got some really cool movie cars. Wooden Wonders, that one's getting ready to go out here at the end of the month. And so we'll be putting in Rad Cars of Savoy. Those are 80s and 90s cars that we have. We still have Chip Foose, if you guys know him. We have his personal cars going down the Great Hall. And obviously Women in Motorsports, which is why we're here. And the Savoy collection. Now then, we also, what I'd like to mention, besides next month, we have some other great exhibits coming up. So we're going to do Moonshiner cars. That'll be coming up. We also have a couple of different exhibitions with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. So we'll have those in June and then also again in October. And so the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum is closed for renovation at the moment. They have I think they'll be closed through about April of 2025. So we were lucky enough to actually we're going to have 2 sets of 12 cars coming here from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. And just to kind of hype it a little bit, I think around the middle of November, we'll be getting the Wasp here. So the very first winner of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So if you guys are familiar with that. So again, go on our website, see our exhibitions that are coming up. Also, we have movies in here. Hopefully you guys have come here and seen the movies. So we just had Rain Man, and the next one we have coming up is American Graffiti. So that's a great movie. So please make sure to come back and see that. I'd like to thank Styles Auto Care. So without their support, they're helping us put all these programs that you guys can come to here. And so we'd really like to thank our friends there at Styles Auto Care for helping support these programs. Okay, so what I'd like to do is introduce first. You probably know him from being here at Savoy. So Tom's going to do a little double duty other than being Director of Development here at Savoy. He's also going to be our moderator today. So if you don't know Tom, he's a 6th generation Bartow County resident. He also started his own or co-founded the TC show, if you guys are familiar with that. Also was doing sports broadcasting. He was, marketing director over at the booth for 6 years before we were able to get him to come over here to Savoy, and now he's the Director of Development. And Tom has his wife Elizabeth and 2 sons here. So I'd like to bring up Tom and let Tom introduce our guest.
Well, thank you, Bruce. That is a warm welcome. It was kind of one of those funny opportunities, like, wait, you're doing a bio on me as well? Okay, cool. Great. Didn't expect that. I thought it was just going to be, here's Tom. But no, we are in for a treat today. For those of you, as Bruce mentioned, that might have been here for the Shirley program last month, we had the opportunity to have Sarah with us, and it was almost a tease. And it was one of those points where it's like, we really enjoyed that opportunity. Maybe there's going to be an opportunity in the future to bring her back. And then it turns out to where it's like, hey, there's a break in racing schedule and opportunity. Let's do it in a couple of weeks. And so this is going to be a lot of fun today because we're going to kind of just have this discussion about her career. And as you can see behind me, I'm not going to read every word. I don't want you to have to go through that either because we're going to talk about a lot of the stuff that's on her bio behind us, but she was born and raised in Cajun country. She got a passion early on that we're going to learn about. What's really cool is that she has done some things that you just will be amazed about, from the different series that she has raced throughout in her career and kind of worked her way through. But then there's some things on the personal level that she does that ties into racing, that's just kind of some of those aspects. It's like, wow, I never would have known that, and it's a really cool connection point. And so we'll kind of go through some of that. So that being said, please help me welcome Sarah Montgomery.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, welcome back, first and
Yes.
foremost.
Thank you.
That's the big aspect there is the fact that we did have that opportunity and wanted to take full advantage of that. But I mentioned Cajun country.
Yes.
Okay? Young girl, growing up as a child, what was it that turned you into a car person, a racer, someone that wanted to see what it was all about? Like, where did that even start?
Well, this is going to be a long story, but long story short, it all started with a Barbie Jeep. Santa brought me a Barbie Jeep. I'm not kidding. I will remember that. It wasn't the Hot Wheels one. It was the classic Barbie Jeep, pink with the white wheels, it was white with pink wheels. And I was probably 5 years old when I got the Barbie Jeep. And I was learning how, thank you, Santa. Thank you. So I eventually just drove the wheels off that thing, quite literally. And back in the day, they didn't have internet and things like that. You could easily just buy more tires for this plastic tires for a Barbie Jeep. Where the heck do you get more of those? I wound up going through three sets of plastic tires, and my dad and mom were like, how the heck do we find these things? Like, they're random. And also, my dad likes to say he souped up the battery a little bit so I could go a little faster here and there. And then my sister also liked to ride with me, but we wore our seatbelts, our little basically like a purse strap seatbelt, you know.
Things are like in buggies at the grocery
yeah,
store.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And my friends always wanted to drive it. I wouldn't let anyone touch it. That was my Barbie Jeep. We're going to make that clear. So I just remember when my sister finally got into the car, let them drive the Barbie Jeep once. She drove it into my dad's rental and dented it. So I'm like, guess that goes to show you this is my thing, okay? So the Barbie Jeep really started it. And then as time went on, my grandpa thought it was funny to keep buying us little Hot Wheels cars. So we probably had thousands of Hot Wheels cars everywhere. Just my sister and I playing with all these little things, like playing house. We had a mat that had the rug on, that had the little streets and everything on it. Played Hot Wheels. And then when I was about 10 years old, my dad was like the top salesman at his car dealership at the time and won free tickets to an Indy car race.
Okay.
So we went to an Indy car race for family vacation, and I had no interest. I was like, I'm 10 years old. I want to go to Disney World. This is not what I want to do. Just like a typical 10-year-old thing. And when we got there, we had suite tickets. So like the best tickets you could get. And then I'm just like, this is dumb. I can't even drink the free alcohol, whatever. I'm 10. Exactly. But there was food. There was a lot of free food, a lot of free desserts. I was all about. But whenever the cars finally started coming out, I was enthralled. I was like, this is the coolest thing I have ever experienced. And I wound up begging my dad, because we went for all the things, practice, qualifying, and the race. When people just go for the race, we went for the whole thing, whole experience. We parked a motorhome out there, so we were just walking to and from the track. And whenever practice was happening, I begged my dad to get us down into the stands because I wanted to really see what it was like down there. So my dad brought us down, and I went up against the fence, and it was Danica Patrick qualifying. And it was one of her very first IndyCar races here in the States. And as a young girl, I am against the fence, which you're not supposed to be, and the car passes by at 200 miles per hour. I get slapped in the face with all the debris, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that.
Okay, hold on.
I guess, sorry, I did throw a lot at you here just for a second.
Stop right there for a split second. So you were 10.
10.
Danica Patrick's first season.
Yep.
So that would have been in 05.
Yep.
So in this exhibition gallery, in our Women in Motorsports exhibit, across from you,
There's
is
a car
the
there.
05 Danica Patrick IndyCar. That car inspired you.
That is the car.
The car.
The car.
Ooh. Anybody else got
Chills, right? It's kind of cool.
Wow, full circle moment there.
Yeah, that is the car. So I had, whenever, in the booth, they came around and were like trying to pitch. I thought her name was Danica Patrick. I had no idea. That was how young, that was how new she was. And the lady brought us, my sister and I, because we were young, these posters of Danica. In that car. Like, it was a Sports Illustrated cover, I think is what the car was, and she was standing next to it, like young Danica, and I had that poster on my wall for years. Looking at that poster, that's what I want to do, and that's the car in the exhibit.
All right, well, I guess we can go home now.
Yeah, we're done.
Wow. Holy cow. Geez. So
Yeah.
talk about a full circle moment. So
Yeah.
from Barbie and Hot Wheels up to Danica Patrick and a poster car.
Yeah.
Then walking into this museum and having your car being a part of it, and it's there. So, okay, family takes you, your dad's your supporter, and they're there, and all of a sudden that the ignition ignites, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
Quite
the passion
literally,
now.
exactly.
I mean, it's there. How does a 10-year-old kid convince parents that you want to race cars?
Yeah.
Like, how does that go over?
Yeah, well, the longest time at 10 years old, I wanted to be a dentist. That was what I wanted to do. So my family's like, cool, someone's gonna make money in this family. Someone can fix our teeth when we get older. It's just like, that's perfect. So it took me 2 years to convince them. And each year, actually, after that race, we happened to be able to go back to that same IndyCar event, which was cool. So during that year off span, again, there's no internet or anything to just research stuff. Like, how do you become a race car driver? That just didn't exist. So I watched every NASCAR and IndyCar race on TV every Sunday. That was me and my dad's thing from then on. We were watching the races, learning how things work, pit stops, like all my friends are like, that's dumb. Why are you watching these cars going around in circles? Like, you got to be bored with that, And I was like, I fall asleep halfway through and then someone crashes and I wake up again and it's fun to watch. So that's how it works. But yeah, so it took a long time. About 2 years, and they were very strict on, if your homework's not done, we can't watch the race. So Saturday night, I'm like, okay, 1 + 2 is 3, and getting everything done. And then about 2 years after begging and begging them to help me, I finally brought them my childhood piggy bank, as cheesy as this story sounds, and begged them one last time, like, please help me get involved in racing. I actually found somewhere, there's a little go-kart track right by our house, dirt oval go-kart track. Let's just go watch it one night. Okay. And my dad was like, I'm not telling her no anymore. And my mom's like, please just be a ballerina or something less dangerous. And I'm redheaded and stubborn. And once I put my mind to something, I'm going to do it, besides the dentist thing. But anyways, so I begged and begged. And next thing I knew, my birthday came around a couple months later, and I had a dirt oval go-kart sitting in my garage.
Yeah. There we are. And
my dad's like, cool, that's there. Yeah, I don't know what to do with it now. You got a go-kart now. So
at that point, you literally jump into the dirt oval racing in the karts.
Yeah.
And
before we get there,
okay,
my dad takes me to this said dirt kart track. Said dirt kart track. And it's just me and him. We went on a Saturday night, beautiful day out. We're sitting in the stands. We're the only people sitting in the stands. First race we watch, a guy barrel rolls over the barricade right over us, gets out, throws his hands, throws his helmet at the other guy, but he's holding his ribs at the same time and walks off. And my dad's like, phew, we can go home. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to do that. And my dad's like, oh my God, here we go.
What have we done?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's how and I was even more hooked at that point.
you saw the difficult part and said, I can do this.
Yeah, I was like, oh, he broke his ribs, and his name was Squirrel. That's what they called him.
Of course. That makes sense now.
It does.
Okay.
It does. Yeah.
So Squirrel has his wreck in front of you before you ever get on the track to do this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you come home with your cart and it's like, we're going to do this.
Yeah. Yep. So we had a lot of help.
And you're in middle school at this point?
Yeah. I'm still learning how to multiply and stuff like that,
Fractions, decimals.
Louisiana schools, it's how that worked. But anyways, so I love where I'm from. I'm just messing, but still. So we get the go-kart, and the guy we bought it from is helping us a lot with random things, set up like what drift or what a understeer and oversteer is, and I'm just sitting there like, yep, like this young girl, like never been introduced to cars of any sort, you know, I'm just still.
Right pedal makes it go.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So we get to our first race, and my dad and I are literally just standing around picking our nose, basically, while everyone's running around finding things to do. And I go out for my very first race, and my dad likes to tell the story like this. Basically, you know, oval, you're only turning left, and I decided to turn right. Into the wall.
What happened?
And then, of course, I'm upset because I don't know what just happened. And we bring the cart in, and again, my dad and I are just looking at it like, this is destroyed. Like, now what do we do? Because, you know, we're not used to turning wrenches. My dad's always loved cars, but never done anything with them, you know? Yep. So all these people came out of the woodworks, like bringing us parts we didn't even know we needed, like spindles, random things. And my dad has a pad and he's writing, what's your name? So gave us, what's that part? Okay, yeah. And so we had this whole list of people with parts that brought us all these things. And we were like, I don't even know where to buy this stuff. It's like a dirt oval go-kart. Again, there's no internet and things like that. You can't just buy it. So we have this list and they eventually get it all back together for me. And I go back out and finish the night. And then in that driver's meeting, for my very first driver's meeting, the track announces that they're closing the track. And my dad's like, cool. You know, yeah.
Dodged another one.
Yeah. And then I'm like, you know, upset. He decides to buy the dirt oval go-kart track and turned it into this huge thing. And I will say, my dad did a great job. My mom owned the concession stand. PSA, don't eat her ice cream before a July race in Louisiana. And anyways, so he bought the go-kart track and had it for a few years and brought that thing up to life. And there were sponsors, there were sponsor boards all over. We had the stands full every weekend. And that's, I mean, while my dad was working on the track, getting it packed and ready, you know, for the next race, I was working on my go-kart, you know, and luckily it was pretty easy. And now I look at my car and I'm like, what does that do? I'm like, that's way more complicated than I'm used to with like a simple go-kart, no AC, no computers, nothing. But yeah, so it was a whirlwind start.
So okay, you threw me for a loop when your dad buys the track.
Yeah.
Talking about all in on a child's passion at that point, and being fully supportive. Mm-hmm. So you go from that standpoint, and it's not just racing go-karts on the weekends, because it literally became something where you weren't just out there driving, you were competing and you were winning. Yeah,
it definitely took a few years because I was still like so young and naive, like I knew nothing, you know, and I will never forget this conversation. I don't even know if my dad remembers, but we were taking our motorhome from home to the track for my very first race. This was before I hit the wall, for the first time, I guess I should say. And the conversation we had, he was saying, okay, if you feel your cart start to slide a little bit, that's something called oversteer. And then he's like explaining this all to me. And that was, I don't even know if he remembers that, but it's a conversation we had that I'll never forget, because he's like trying to teach me oversteer and understeer, basically car dynamics, on my way to my first race ever, you know? I was like, a little late for that, Dad, but thanks, you know? I'll figure it out. I'll let you know if I think it's sliding. But I had no idea what I was doing back then, you know? No clue. I was like, yeah, it's sliding. You're on dirt, honey. That makes sense. But anyways, it was fun.
So you compete, you win multiple championships karting you know, across the Southeast from that standpoint. And at that point, you're moving, I would assume, moving into high school, kind of getting that opportunity for, what is it, Spec Miatas at this point?
Eventually, yes.
Eventually get to that point. So, and this was before you obviously ever had a driver's license.
Yep, I mean, it was.
From that standpoint. So where did that element come from? Like, what are your friends doing during high school when you're out and about doing what's driving you? Yeah, I actually, in high school, missed all of my high school dances except for my senior prom because I wasn't racing that weekend. But if you would have been, priorities, man. You know, no, but I missed a lot of my high school functions, and just because racing was #1 priority for me. As I was saying earlier to you privately, but
my friends, were like going out partying, like posting pictures on their social media, things like that, as any high schooler does. And I wasn't, because I was so focused on racing and like trying to find sponsorship, because I come from a family, we can't afford this, because it's way too expensive. So we keep my social media clean, and honestly, that was just who I was. I was in, we'll get to, I'm sure, high school marching band, and like I was structured, I was very organized, and like wanted to be a clean person, because you never know what might arise from that type of person, I guess, so I get a phone call, I think it was sophomore or senior or junior year of high school, from Lafayette Travel Tourism.
So your local tourism office.
Local tourism office at home. And they said, we'd like to sponsor you. And that was my first ever sponsor. Was my hometown. And I was like, this is really cool. I don't know how to handle myself. I was like, let's go delete anything I have on there. Like, so no worries. We've been watching you for over 6 months on social media. So as a high schooler, I'm like over the moon that, I wasn't that partying type, because now I have a sponsorship from it. And still have that sponsor.
Still to this day.
11 years later.
Wow.
So very special, but you never know who's watching.
Right.
I don't know how I just completely derailed to that, but anyways.
Well, so let's go back real quick for a second, because you mentioned the music aspect.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I was just enthralled with in learning more about you, here I am sharing a stage with you, and you're someone that has soloed in Carnegie Hall, and someone that has sang in the Apollo Theater, and a nationally honored
clarinetist.
Yep. Okay. So there is, you mentioned regiment and being that aspect of it. How does your early passions, the music side of things that you're clearly talented at, how did that connect to driving and the passion of, going after something that's different and learning that aspect?
Yeah, no, it's totally different things, but it's completely the same. Like when I put my mind to something, I am wholeheartedly dedicated to that. Like I just want to be the best out there. So with music, I was able to do all those amazing things because I practice every day. My mom made fun of me so much. Like I sounded like the goose in the house trying to practice random things on my clarinet. The cats would always start rolling around, acting ridiculous, like just making these weird noises like there's a goose in the house. Oh, well, I'm just trying to practice my clarinet. I wasn't that bad, I swear. But anyways, but yeah, so I think all of that dedication, I just put my heart into something because I don't want to disappoint anyone or myself either. And I'm certainly not going to start something I just know I'm not good at, AKA like cooking and, all that other stuff. I'm like, someone else can do that. But yeah, so I think just, pursuing that and putting all my hard work and effort into motorsports and practice, and just trying to be the best I can be from a young start has really pushed me to want to be that and wanting to be Danica Patrick that I saw at 10 years old.
And so the dedication, the practice, the patience, and be, honestly, a little bit of that perfectionist side.
Yeah.
Because we all know if you play instruments, if you don't practice and you're not perfect, you're going to know.
Yeah.
And so you take those mentalities and tie those into being behind the wheel in that element.
Exactly. And, just like the focus, when you're even in a band of 100 people, like you have to be solely focused or else you're gonna be that one to play when there's that 1 second rest.
Yeah.
You have to be so focused, and with racing, it's the same thing. If you lose your mind for just a second, if you're thinking about something else, that's when things happen. That's when you crash. That's when you see people do really dumb things. And I don't ever wanna be that person. I just I wanna win, honestly. So I will do whatever it takes.
So with that, the name of our program tonight, because before we kind of get into more of your professional side of things, front and center on your website, reading about you, we use it as the title for this program, Drive Like a Girl.
Yep.
And that is because?
My dad actually came up with that. Of course, my dad. God bless him. He is Sarah's #1 fan, okay? So was my mom, but my dad was just full-heartedly into this when I first started. But anyways, Drive Like a Girl was something he came up with when I first started go-kart racing.
Okay, so you were young.
I was very young.
Early.
Yeah,
okay.
Very young. And we, put that on like little sponsorship decks we had. Like we had Drive Like a Girl and on t-shirts that we oh my God, we hand print, you can put those printer sheets through a printer and print things out and print them on a shirt. That's how we were back in the day, just, broke and trying to make it. But here I go derailing again. Sorry, everyone. But funny random little stories here and there. But yeah, so I don't even remember what the question was.
So we're going back to the drive like a girl, because you had mentioned the aspect.
Oh, drive like, okay.
Yeah, because you had mentioned the aspect that he kind of came up with that as almost the motto or slogan, but
yes.
you didn't even
I
realize what it was?
as a young girl, when you hear like drive like a girl, you immediately assume like, oh, bad driver, she's driving like a girl again or whatever. So whenever he came up with that slogan for me, I low-key thought it was him like offending me or like, she can't do it. She's driving like a girl, whatever. But as I grew up a little bit and understood it more, and he explained it to me probably 35 times, I was like, oh my God, that makes sense. And now I'm like pushing, like drive like a girl, be that girl, changing the name.
Yeah, a new standard,
yep,
changing
exactly.
the stereotype and embracing that opportunity. Because you talk about that too with your professional side,
yep.
And we're going to talk about that, but then the women racers that inspired you,
yep.
I mean, you are in that position too.
Yep.
And so there are young girls now that are out there that are looking to you, like you looked at Danica or you looked at Shirley.
Scary,
but with this whole drive like a girl, that's that aspect.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
You are embracing them with whatever opportunities they have to be able to push forward.
Yep.
Right?
And
Okay.
I was in an airport shuttle the other day, really not that long ago, and I've become more sassy with age. Like my red hair is just really booming these days. But I heard a gentleman behind me say something like, "Oh, that just whatever accident, whatever happened." It was a girl that was driving. That makes sense. And I turn around and here I am. I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, I race cars professionally, buddy, and women can do it too. And he was like, oh. And I was like, I will sock you right here. Keep going, Anyways, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you race cars. I mean, you are a professional racer at this point. So you've gone from karting, you've done the Spec Miata aspect, and you're getting into, I guess, really what was your rookie year in the Mazda aspect.
Yep. Exactly.
And so talk about that process of going from, it's more of a passion and I'm turning it into a career into that this is now a career moment.
Yeah, I mean, it took so much. So to get into Spec Miata, my cousin, who just so happens to be in racing, no connection as far as me getting interested in it, sent me a go-kart to practice in to get ready for a Skip Barber racing school.
Okay.
So basically, he sent me a shifter street go-kart because I had never shifted before. I didn't have my driver's license yet. So he sent me this to practice, at least upshifting, downshifting, to practice for a Formula car at Skip Barber. And I'm in this huge parking lot down in Cajun Country, in Cajun Field, where we play our football games. My dad set up a little cone course, and I'm just practicing shifting. And this guy drives up, gets out of his truck. I see this guy talking to my dad, and I'm like, Dad, hello. Pay attention to me. I'm like doing things, hello. Right. Anyways, and apparently my dad eventually pulls me up and tells me later that the guy asked my dad, oh, that's cool. What is your son racing in? And because I always tuck my hair into my shirt because the rotors are on a go-kart right behind you. So if you get your hair stuck in it, you're just going for a ride. So not a fun one at that. So I always tucked my hair in.
I wouldn't have that problem. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
I'm clear. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
So the guy's like, where's, that's cool. What's your son doing this for? Whatever. My dad's just playing along with it. Yeah, he's doing this, whatever. And my dad pulls me in, I take my helmet off, and I saw the guy's face, and he's like, whoa. Not what I expected. So that was just, the world playing its part because that guy raced Spec Miatas. Oh. Basically took me under his wing right after that, invited me to a Spec Miata race shortly after, 2 weeks after he saw me in Cajun Field, and let me drive his car. And that turned into a long-time friendship and a full sponsorship for many years. Oh. So he basically got me in Spec Miata racing, all because he happened to be driving by Cajun Field that day.
Whew.
Yeah. Wow, right?
Yeah, wow.
And Lafayette, Louisiana is not a small place either. So it's just ironic. But But yeah, so it did spec me out of racing for a long time, and before I even had my driver's license, like you said earlier, and slowly dipped my toes into the professional racing arena, again from an ironic scenario, just like the one I was saying. I was practicing my friend's car, which was an MX-5 Cup car. The gentleman who saw me at Cajun Field moved up himself into the MX-5 Cup Series, which is the professional Mazda MX-5 Cup Series. So he was letting me practice his car in Houston one day just for the heck of it.
Okay.
And in that garage, and now this is multiple years later, I speak to this gentleman, just tell him my story, whatever, keep going about my day. I get a phone call next week from that team owner. Hey, this gentleman wants to talk to you. His name was Roy Johnson. Loaded, fantastic, nice guy. Wanted to sponsor me in MX-5 Cup that next year. So you never know who you're talking to.
So apparently it pays off to practice.
It pays off to be
People want you to
nice.
practice.
Yeah, exactly. So, so that year I got started in the Skip Barber series of MX-5 Cup. So Skip Barber was running their own little series alongside the big MX-5 Cup series. So I started in the Skip Barber, which is where you start because they're a little slower than the big cars, and did okay. Again, just learning new things, being with actual real professional drivers was quite eye-opening. I was not ready for that, but you got to start somewhere.
Right. Yep.
And then did many years of MX-5 Cup for sure, and eventually moved up out of Skip Barber into the MX-5 Cup series with a lot of help from a lot of angels out there.
But now with that though, and I love your modesty, but I'll go ahead and say this. I mean, your rookie year in the MX-5 series, I mean, you did well. I mean, you were the top-ranked female driver your rookie year.
Yeah.
Finished top 10 in points.
Yep.
While still learning.
Yeah.
From that standpoint.
Yeah, and I know other racing people would say the same thing. The MX-5 Cup Series is the hardest series to compete in, by far. There are the best drivers in that series, and you cannot make a mistake. In higher series like IMSA, or even what you guys might be familiar with, like NASCAR, things like that, they have the horsepower if they make a small mistake to get back up to the front. In MX-5 Cup, it's all momentum driving. So that's where the best drivers come from, are the MX-5 Cup Series. So for me, starting in that, I was so green, as we like to call it. I didn't know anything, but eventually learned, had great coaches and things like that, and a lot of sponsorship help to make it happen for sure.
And so from there, that kind of propelled you into opportunities. Talk about that aspect, because here you are, your rookie year, you do that, you're learning, you're green, as you say, and then all of a sudden, it's setting the stage for what's coming, obviously.
Sure. Yeah, so I continued that MX-5 Cup path for a few years, and then one year I decided to try and move up and go into Pirelli World Challenge.
Okay.
Which is a different series, competing series, but it is a little bit higher up. So I decided...
So natural progression.
Exactly. It just made sense. I decided to race a Honda Civic that year with a really good team. Yeah, don't ask. Hated that car. Anyways, but whatever, progression, right? So as I get into that series, I did really well the first race weekend. Second race weekend comes along. In qualifying, something breaks on the car. Okay. And I go slamming into a wall at 120 miles per hour. Car barrel rolls 8 times, and every time it landed was on the driver's side.
So that was your squirrel moment.
Yeah. Quite literally.
Yeah.
Quite literally. Crazy thing, the seat kind of unbolted, so my head was basically sticking out the window each time. So that was my head taking the impact, I think, which made me more sassy after thinking about it, but yeah, it was horrible. I don't remember a thing. I remember the feeling of my spine compressing, and I woke up to them screaming, "We got to cut her out. We have to cut her out." And I am so unaware of what's going on. I'm just sitting in the car like, what is going on? And I see my windshield smashed in, and I'm like, was I in an accident? And I hear them yelling, they have to cut me out, which as a driver, if you hear them needing to cut you out of the car, that means that they're gonna total loss the car. And I was renting this car, and I surely couldn't afford to fix it. So I'm stupid. I unbuckle myself, and they're like, stop, and I pull myself out so that they didn't have to cut it, and then I immediately pass out again. And they pull me out, put me on a stretcher, and my dad's on the hill watching. he doesn't know what's going on, and he thinks I died, to be honest, because when they pull me out, I'm full limp, and they, put a blanket over me and then throw me in the ambulance and take me to Infield Care Center. But joke's on him, I just passed out. It's fine. Anyways, it was serious. I just have to make a joke about it because it was a rough period of time. But anyways, I come in and out of consciousness a few times and wound up having a concussion pretty bad. Broke a couple ribs. A few days later, actually, they were just cracked at the time, and I broke them a few days later. That was a fun story too. Yeah, nothing like bending down to get a shirt out your drawer and you hear pop, 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 and then that was fun. So that wasn't a fun time.
Okay, I want to know this, like the mentality of getting back into the car after that.
It was hard. After that accident, that's probably the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life. I was absolutely depressed because that was the second race of the year, and I knew I had nothing else, we can't afford this kind of racing. It's all sponsors, and my partners dumped a ton of money into me that year to help me make it through the season, and that remaining money wound up paying for the car that I broke, basically. Even though a part failed on the car, I was driving it at the time, so it's still deemed my fault, and I have to pay for it, which is a bummer. But I was lost. I couldn't really do much after because I couldn't even cough or sneeze. I remember in Costco one time, I had to sneeze and it just came out and everyone came running because I'm on my knees and I'm like, I'm fine, I swear I just have broken ribs. And they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, wait, come back. Wait, hold on.
So this mental aspect
was hard.
It's one of these things that I think a lot of fans take for granted.
For sure.
We think about the passion in racing, and if you're a race fan and you watch it and you're into that aspect of it, but then there's that mentality aspect of the pressures that you have to keep going for those relationships.
Yep.
And then if you don't, the impact of that, going forward, like that's an entire other realm of this career as a racer that all too often I think gets overlooked.
For sure. And like I've been saying this whole time, for me, partners are everything. Like I literally cannot afford this sport. Just for frame of reference, my racing this year alone costs about $150,000 to $200,000. I cannot afford it. So back then, being in college, I was just lost. Like I didn't know what to do because, focus on school, that's great. But like everything I've worked so hard for, including my family and, basically giving up all my time and everything to make this happen just has completely vanished in a matter of 3 minutes, So getting my head out of the funk was really the hardest part because I'm just like, oh, I crashed. I did this. I'm a bad driver. You just go down this rabbit hole, and I stayed in my bed all the time. And my sister's like, you need to get up. Like, this isn't you. And I mean, it just sucked. It really did.
So you were at the bottom.
I was at the bottom.
At that point.
I was at the bottom.
And in reality, when you look at it in a timing situation, I mean, this was 2017-ish, I believe, 2017, 2018-ish?
2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's perfect because you go from the bottom of the bottom to 2019.
Yeah.
And 2019 was a big year.
It was.
And it wasn't just a big year for you personally, but it was a momentous occasion for the sport, is a good way to put this.
Exactly.
Because it was in 2019, you were in the Global Mazda series.
Yep, went back to it and became the first woman to ever podium. Correct. 4 times.
4 times. Yeah, let's throw that in there. Like, not just once, but 4 times.
Yeah.
So you literally from 1 year, the bottom, to the point to where, I mean,
I finished second also, so.
top of the world aspect in your respected world from the standpoint of being the first female in women motorsports history to podium in the series.
Yep. Exactly.
And as you mentioned, not just once, but 4 times.
So it was hard to come back from that. But the gentleman standing on the top step is one of my best friends. His name is John Dean, owner of Team 6 Sideways. And he, long story short, gave me a phone call and was like, you have your old car, because I owned one of the Cup cars.
Okay.
So I had that going for me. And he was like, I've got a sponsor. I want to help you, and I want to do this together. So John and I made it work somehow, and it was the best racing year I've ever had. And I don't know if you guys saw the picture on the main screen before it all started, but I was like throwing my hands up like this. That was right after I got out of the car that one.
Yeah.
That was right after I got out of the car, after my first ever podium, and the release of pressure is just gone. So that picture is just so monumental, because that picture's worth 1,000 words for sure.
If not more.
Exactly. So I went the whole season without being able to do it, and the pressure just kept getting harder and harder, because that was what the whole goal of me racing was that year. And John was dumping a ton of money into it to help me make that happen, pretty much. And as soon as I podiumed, my dad, of course, he was there. It was in Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
And it was for the IndyCar event, and he had to run an entire mile to the podium celebration. So he's getting there, and he's like huffing and puffing, but he's like so excited,
He said a PR.
Yeah. So the coolest thing I will never forget was Sarah Fisher made her way to find me after that happened, and was like, over the moon, congratulations. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Sarah Fisher. It's like she knows who I am, But it was just so special, and Mazda was really supportive of everything, and we just made it this huge thing, and it still hasn't been beaten to this day, and there's been more females in that series since I've been in it.
Incredible.
So it's cool.
And when you really start to put it together from that to be at the bottom, then all of a sudden you're at the top, and being on the podium, earning that opportunity, really set the bar for what's happened in the past couple of years, because it has been a steady progression from one series to the next in that element. So you went from that opportunity there in the Mazda series, the Global Mazda, you joined with, let me see if I can remember, it was round 3, is that right?
Yep.
Okay. And so this was in the World Racing League.
Yep,
So explain the difference there, that if you're in the global aspect with the Miata, to go into this World Racing League.
So the MX-5 Cup Series is a sprint race.
Okay.
So it's 45 minutes. Go for it.
Yeah.
And may the best man or woman win.
There you go.
So the World Racing League is a little bit different style. More horsepower cars, but long endurance races, 8-hour races. I don't do all that by myself.
Team.
I am way too pretty for that. No. Anyways, no, I'm kidding. In the 8-hour race, there's normally 3 drivers, so we split it. So each driver normally drives about 2 to 3 hours at a time, depending on fuel stops, red flags, yellow flags, all the things, but normally about 2 hours at a time. So I started with round 3 racing in a Porsche Boxster.
Okay. Whoa.
And see, upgrade.
That's a long way from that Honda Civic.
Exactly. It was older. It was fine. Broke sometimes, but a lot of fun. Learned endurance racing, how to do driver changes, because in sprint racing you don't do that. So funny quick side story, in MX-5 Cup, they make you do an egress test. Basically, you have to get out of the car in less than 10 seconds.
Okay.
And they time you before the start of any racing season to make sure you're fit enough to do that. The way the MX-5 Cup cars are, and if you go out and look at the car, you can see it with a helmet on and a Hans, it's tight. You can't get out very quickly. And all the officials are like my best friends, right? They know I'm a hot mess, but all in a good way. So my egress test, I somehow pull myself out, but wind up barrel rolling out of the car. And
But you're out.
Yeah, I'm out. And I'm like done. And Keith's like, Sarah. And I'm like, I am out. That's the rule. I just have to get out of the car in 10 seconds. And he was like, can we just do it one more time? And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I was like, it's going to be the same thing, I promise you, Keith. And sure enough, same thing. And my dad's just like, oh my God, what have I raised? And Keith's like, all right, well, I guess she got out. So anyways, but you'll see.
Did they change the rule book to where it says no barrel rolls?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, is that
Oh
changed?
gosh. Yeah, no. It still passes, apparently. But yeah, so divert back to World Racing World Racing League. WRL is what it's short for. That, believe it or not, trained me for that. And unfortunately, I can't barrel roll out of the car now. I have to be a proper lady about it, because as soon as I'm out, I have to help my co-driver get in. And that's belts, all the 5-point harness, and you have to do this in like less than 30 seconds. So you have to get out and help them in 30 seconds. So as long as it took me to get out of that MX-5 Cup car, you can imagine some of the cars I drive now, getting in and then having to buckle them in, get the radio adjusted, help them adjust the steering wheel, the pedals, get the net up, and slam the door all within 30 seconds.
Whew. So how long are you physically racing at a time? Let's say like obviously you've got your teammates and you're doing a certain aspect.
It'll be
of
that stint, about 2.5 to 3 hours.
3 hours.
Yeah,
okay.
so I get out fried.
And what's your role in that sense? I mean, are you like the ringer? Are you the one that we're catching up? Like we're gonna make up some time? Like I know this program is about me today, but I hate talking about myself when it comes to being good. But yes, I technically am that person. Okay. Well, and it's because you've built that, because as we've been talking about it, it's very clear that, you know, you've got this confidence, but yet you seem to do it in an astute way. Like when you're driving, I can tell that it is methodical. Like there is obviously a method to this, and you're trying to make the right decisions.
Yep.
In order to be better from that standpoint.
Yeah, and that's my whole goal. I want to be the best, and it's, you know, my social media is strictly about me and my driving. Like, I just want to be the best driver out there. I want to be known for that. I don't want to be known for that girl on social media posting those pictures and getting attention that way. I want to be known for being the best driver, and that's my whole goal. And I am proud that I have done that for myself so far, and want to just keep climbing the ladder.
And it's an inspiration for the next generation from that standpoint too.
Exactly.
So with that goes right into talking about publicity and opportunities there. That kind of opened the door in 2021 for
Don't do this. Don't do this. Are you about to bring that up?
Which one? There's a couple.
Oh, here we go.
I know. I'm 2021. So
okay, so that's okay. Keep going. You're good. We're good. We're in the clear,
okay,
guys.
well, while we're talking, we'll go back. So if you didn't know, in 2018 was the bottom of the bottom, wasn't it? Oh, that's why it was part of the bottom.
Well, actually, no, it wasn't. But yes.
So
keep going.
Sarah had this opportunity with one of her best friends to participate in a television show that we're probably pretty familiar with, at least the name from that standpoint. They were invited to be a part of the Steve Harvey show. And I asked her about this earlier in preparation, and she wouldn't tell me. She told me, if I'm going to tell you that story, I'm going to tell you on stage. So since we're in the spotlight and you brought it up.
Thanks for coming. Oh, perfect. My mic shut off.
Hey!
I don't know why it did. That was
Did it?
timing, though. It really did.
Oh, that is interesting. Well, guess what?
Touch it.
Bruce happens to have a microphone.
How convenient. Thank you, Bruce.
How convenient.
That was just perfect. Anyways, that was not timed. But so my best friend, Ashton Harrison, who also races in IMSA, she's gone up the ladder even farther than I have. I just moved to Atlanta and moved in with her because we were trying to make life happen, be race car drivers together, all that good stuff. And she was trying to help me find work while I lived here and asked me for my resume. And I was like, okay, cool. And I sent it all to her, sent her my information, she asked me for like what my signature looked like, whatever. Didn't think anything of it. I was like, it's my best friend. Like, what, I know I'm in good hands. So I went back home for Thanksgiving to Louisiana. And when I came back, I see her on the couch and she's looking like a dog that just chewed up a shoe that it wasn't supposed to eat.
She did something.
And I'm like, what did you do? And she's just laughing. And I'm like, what's the matter? I was like, what'd you do? She goes, we're going to be on the Steve Harvey show next week. And I was like, what does that even mean? And I was like, what does that even mean? And she goes, well, I asked you for your resume and your signature because I filled out all this information, blah, blah, blah. You don't even need to know we're going. We're going. And I was like, okay, well, that's not fair. What is happening? So she signed us up for race car drivers looking for love segment. Yeah. So leave it to my best friend to be that person. But so I find myself in LA the next week after like freaking out. Oh my God, I'm going to find my boyfriend, love of my life on Steve Harvey and race car driver segment, whatever. It was wild. They tried to put me in, so we had to go through full hair, wardrobe, makeup, all the things. They put me in a skinny purple leather dress. That's not me. Like, I'm blue jeans, t-shirt kind of girl, right? And then they fluff my hair up so it's massive, and then they put all this makeup on me, and then I walk out, and I'm like, like stick figure because I'm in a leather dress, and I sit down, and I'm like having to sit up proper, and Ashton's got this super cute outfit on. They dolled her up, and I'm like, what about me? Hello. Like, anyways, but yeah, it was a wild time. Great time. We met guys. We went on, they were from Atlanta, and they actually did cool. We were on totally separate flights, stayed in different hotel rooms, so we could never even like see each other. And it was the corniest thing, I'm telling you. They had this door that opened, and the guys were facing backwards, and they turned around, and me and Ashton were like, oh my, no. Oh my God. It's about to happen. Anyways, it was just an experience, and I think it's about to be played for you guys. Unfortunately, that's why I'm freaking out.
Yeah. Blake's going down on your totem pole, isn't he?
Yeah. Anyways, so we wound up having to ask these guys these questions, and then at the very end of the segment, it was like a 4-minute segment. We had to lean in and talk to each other and pick which guy we wanted to go on a date with. So, I'm gonna leave now. Yep, that's it. That was that leather dress. I literally couldn't move, and Ashton looked great and like super comfortable, and her hair was all nice and curled. Mine was way frizzier than it looks in this, and all these really cute guys, and it was just a wild time.
So going back to what I was going to talk about, in 2021, that's absolutely, now I understand why you wanted to wait. Okay, this is great. So from that standpoint, you've got this whole opportunity with TV here that kind of sets the stage in reality. It's like now all of a sudden the team you're on in 2021 is picked to be a part of a Drive Within, which is a show on MotorTrend that Hagerty is a part of, and it literally documents your team kind of throughout the process. Fascinating shows, series, like, what was that like?
It was interesting. Racing is like business for me, because even though it's fun and it's my passion, it's still a business, because I have all these partners that are, giving me money, and they expect a return. So when I get there, everyone's like, oh, you're going on vacation again. I'm like, no, racing, I have never been sicker in my life than before on a race day. Like, it's fun, but it's not fun at the same time. You are just a hot mess, like anxiety, stress all the time, especially just trying to keep your partners happy and look good for the occasional photographer that happens to snap photos of you when you don't even know it's happening. And then all of a sudden, MotorTrend's here in my face for every second. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, oh God, I gotta put makeup on this morning. Like, I'm like going to the track. I'm like rubbing makeup off in my helmet. It's just a whole thing. I don't even have a mirror flap down to look and make sure I don't have makeup on my face. Oh my goodness. So the crew was so great. I had so much fun behind the scenes. I had more fun with them behind the scenes than I did in front of the camera, I think. But I always picked on the head producer, Ben, and I was like, put me in front of that camera. I'm ready. Just do it. I was like, just trying to get as much airtime as possible. Like, hey, I'm Sarah. Listen to my story, whatever. Anyways, it was a lot of fun. We had a great time in a really bad year, which was perfect for TV. There was one race specifically in VIR, Virginia International Raceway. Yep. My biggest fear as a driver is fire. And just in life is being stuck in a car that's underwater. And it's not relatable to anything racing-wise, but fires. So I am in our Porsche Cayman at this point. We moved up a little bit.
Okay. Yep.
And with Round 3 Racing, and next thing you know, I hear this loud bang, and the car's not handling right, and I see my left rear tire 30 feet in the air out of my driver's window. And I was like, oh,
Is that mine?
That's not supposed to be there. And I was like, oh, is that why the car's not stopping? I'm not stopping. And I just go straight. And I eventually get stuck in the grass. It is a beautiful day outside, very hot. The car light's on fire because now I'm in the grass, and they haven't done a yellow flag yet. I don't know if they're not paying attention to me. It turns out there was a really bad crash on the other end of the track that they were obviously a little more worried about. But for me, I'm in a full panic because my interior's full of smoke. I can't see anything. I'm screaming on the radio. The other car that was involved in the wreck was our sister car. So the team was worried about them. And I'm like, do I get out of the car? Do I pull the fire extinguisher? Because we have basically a fire pole. So if you pull that, there's little hoses that go around the car that have fire extinguisher junk in it, whatever the powder is.
Yep.
And it is just a mess to clean up. So you don't pull it unless you need to. And I just wanted to make sure, I had never been in that scenario. I was in a full panic. So I eventually get out of the car, and I'm just like freaking out. Like I was just in my worst case scenario mentally. Cause I mean, it was big. And so I'm riding back with the tow bed, and my car's on the back. And of course I get there, and the film crew is waiting. And I'm like, oh my God. And I don't ever cry, but I was so overwhelmed and panicked. I had tears running down my face. I was like, I just need a breath. There was just more to it that weekend too. So it just all piled up, and it just all came out at once. And so I immediately just go run and hide in my team owner's RV. And I'm like, I just need a second. I'm just freaked out. Like everything happened. It was such a weekend for TV. So that car, our sister car crashed, our car caught on fire, and all the while our team is trying to take care of both of us on track. The trailer's on fire. Something happened, and the fuse board just caught fire, so they get back to the trailer, everything's on fire, and the TV show crew's like, oh my God, this is great. And I'm like, get me a home, That was one wild weekend, and it was just interesting.
Wow. Yeah. So from there, we're really coming in to where we're gonna kind of wrap this part up so we can do some Q&A here in a minute. But we get into where we're at now. So you've obviously gone from the spec Miatas, you've gone from the cars you've raced. Like you mentioned, getting into the team racing where you had the Porsches and you had the BMWs, and now you've progressed again in essence. Mm-hmm. And so currently you're racing with a team,
AE Victory Racing.
Okay, AE Victory Racing, and an Audi R8 is what you're currently in right now?
So hard work pays off. So, just slowly climbing the ladder. We did the Boxster, then moved to the Cayman, which was pretty fast. And then after that, we moved to a BMW M4, which was incredibly fun. Then we moved to a GT3 Cup car, and now I'm in an Audi R8. So you never know where life will take you,
right.
But I've been so fortunate to drive the cars that I've been able to, because these are cars that people just dream about even seeing.
Right.
And I get to, drive them as fast as they can possibly go, which is very cool. I just am so honored to have that opportunity.
So let's talk about that, because right now you're in the middle of a season from that standpoint, or the start of a season. You've had a couple of races so far, had a little break, hence is why you're here this weekend. I believe, is it next weekend you're right back on the track?
Yep. So next weekend we're going to be in Wisconsin at Road America.
Okay. For
another event in the Audi R8.
Okay. And I believe you've got a Daytona race coming up. You've got Charlotte.
Yep.
For folks here, Sarah will actually be racing at Road Atlanta in end of July.
Yep.
So an opportunity for y'all to make note that she will be basically home track in that sense right now.
Yep, exactly.
From that standpoint. So before we open it up for questions from the audience, I've got a couple of questions, kind of a speed round, so to speak. I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. You just answer them. Okay?
I'm terrified.
You shouldn't be. What was your first car?
First car was a 2003 Mustang GT manual transmission.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right. The cars that you've driven, what's been your favorite race car?
I had the opportunity to drive the newest model GT3 Cup car, Porsche, on Michelin slick tires. And that was the coolest thing I've ever done. I was like, I can be done now. That was it. That was cool.
Check that box.
Yeah.
Ask your first car. So, favorite racetrack that you've raced at?
Favorite racetrack would probably be either Watkins Glen in New York, and even though I live here, I'm not from here, so it doesn't count as me being your home track, but Road Atlanta is really
Georgia
fun.
is home for you now,
Yeah, it is.
right now.
It is.
Okay, awesome. So that's exciting. And from that standpoint, I think Bruce has got a microphone, so we're going to kind of open it up for questions from that standpoint. And what's going to be fun about this aspect, we want to make sure that if you've got a question, raise your hand. We want to come by because as we do this, we're recording today's program, so we want to make sure we get the questions on the recording as well. So that's what we'll have a microphone for. So we'll open it up to questions from that standpoint as we continue to talk and have our program here. Anybody got our first question? All the way on the other side, Bruce. From that standpoint, of course, right?
Somebody over here.
Yeah, somebody over here, get ready. Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I graduated high school in Louisiana. Ouachita High School in Monroe. So did you ran the 24 Hours of Daytona this year, or?
No, so my series is a little bit different. That's a series called IMSA that runs that, and we run in a series called WRL. So it is the same style of racing, endurance racing, where you have multiple drivers, but it's just a different series. I can't afford IMSA, so I race in the series right underneath it, basically.
Yeah, we went to the 24 Hours of Daytona this year. We took a 6-hour nap, so the rest of the time we were in the stands. One other thing, would you ever consider running Pikes Peak?
Absolutely. So my best friend is Lonnie Unser, who, comes from the Unser family, but she's run Pikes Peak the past few years, and my boyfriend and a couple other friends went to Pikes Peak 2 years ago, and just as a spectator, and it was the most fun experience, even though it was completely miserable.
We went 2 years ago, camped out on the mountain.
Yep.
It was like 38 degrees at 8,500 feet where we were at.
Yep.
They said Devil's Playground. It was 28 degrees.
That's where we were.
All day
Miserable.
long. Never changed the temperature. Little snow.
I had fun, I guess.
So while we wait on the next question, I've got one that I did ask earlier, and I absolutely loved your answer. That's why I'm going to have to ask it in front of everybody. You are a professional racer. What is it like being on a normal road with everyday drivers?
Terrifying.
Terrifying. That was her answer earlier. Terrifying.
Yeah, I think in racing, even though we're going 100 miles per hour and hitting each other, no one's on their phone. So in real life, even if you are hitting each other, someone's probably on their phone and not paying attention. And I'm not saying that most race car drivers are even qualified to be on that racetrack, because that is not the case. But at least they have a little more car control skills than a lot of average people do on the road.
I think we had another question. Frankie?
Two questions. Actually, two questions, one observation. So back to my first experience in a race car was a Miata. Spec Miata back in your earlier days. Is that similar to autocross SCCA, or is it full-blown racetrack?
No, I've never done autocross. I've done one autocross in my Mustang back in the day, but everything in Spec Miata was on a racetrack. Full race car, full prepped Miata that was not street legal anymore.
Similar to Road Atlanta. What were some of those tracks?
Yep, exactly. So I did more racing in Louisiana. I just moved to Atlanta about 5 years ago. So it was more of the southern track. So there was a track called Circuit Grand Bayou right south of Baton Rouge. NOLA eventually opened up as I was kind of started getting into car racing. It was about a year or two after I started Spec Miata. And those were really the two. And then MSR Houston and MSR Crescent, those were the ones that I really tried to stay around. Racing in SCCA and NASA, but in the southern region.
Gotcha. Second question. Have you ever pursued, or would you ever consider circle track?
Yes, I would take anything that has four wheels and a steering wheel, to be honest. But where my path is going right now, that just is not the way it's going, I guess, which is fine. I'm happy where it's going. But I mean, if something if an opportunity arose, I would be all over it because I miss circle track racing. It was
Right.
when you could really start punting people, throwing them off the track, and really not get in trouble for it, except a fist fight after. But anyways,
Well, that sort of leads me to my observation. So, no or very little experience in road racing myself, but circle track I have. And coming along, there were 2 female drivers in our series, and one was top of the chain. If she didn't win, she was always in the top 5. Red hair, very energetic. It just goes with the hair, I guess. But yeah, and
yes, it does.
speaking of your first experience with folks bringing you parts when you broke your cart, my experience, and there's idiots anywhere you go and chauvinistic pigs. We all know that. But as a whole, the racing industry, the racers, the pits, everybody around that arena, particularly with the ladies, in my opinion, somebody that's skilled to that level is just looked up to. I always looked up to these ladies. They were better than I was, and as a group, as a community, everybody would pull together in times of need and help folks. And a lot of people don't realize that unless you're actually immersed in it. But I hope that you feel the same. I hope, for the most part, that you've always been invited and felt welcomed. I know that in my experience, that was a fun part of it, the community part of it.
Yeah, I definitely would say when I first started, yes, those people were very nice and helped me get to that point, but I also didn't have a name for myself at that point, so it was very hard. I got talked down to a lot in my early racing days, which, just goes with it, and I think it just made me a stronger person to this day. And now I am lucky enough to have made a name for myself that people are like, oh, Sarah's racing this series. Like, oh God, we got to get our crap together. That's just how it is. And luckily, all the guys, and not saying it's anything against men particularly, because that's who's gotten me to where I am today. So I think, Danica Patrick and Lynn St. James and Shirley Muldowney and all those great women have started to lay that path for us to get to this point. And now there's more and more females getting involved. And I think it's just now becoming more of an accepted thing, and it's something that people aren't even thinking about, which is the whole goal. And I think it's really special. And whether I had to deal with those people back in the day, whatever, I got in one fight one time, but I didn't hit anyone. So that was good. But, I did get my point across, which is all that mattered, and I had the last word, so that was good. But yeah, I think it's just, people respect me now, which has taken a lot of hard work, but I am grateful for that.
Got another question over here?
You should have respect, that's for sure. You are just fascinating to me. I just enjoy so much listening to you. You're an excellent speaker, got a pretty good moderator.
He's okay, minus that Steve Harvey part.
My question to you is, will you come back here to Savoy in 10 years? I hope I live that long to see your status at that point, because I think you are going to be, in not Shirley's place at that point, but, you certainly can be. I was just talking about age. I think you're quite young, but you don't sell yourself short. You're an excellent mentor to these young ones coming up, and
thank you.
You're just doing a great job, in my opinion.
I appreciate that. I love that. Thank you.
Well, and that is a big part of your drive too, and this is it's evident in seeing interviews with you and things that take place after races, because you're the first one when a group of kids come up or a group of young girls that you drop what's happening and you're invested in them and talking to them and sharing that passion and elevating their desire.
Yeah, and whether it's driving or other things, like whether they want to be an engineer or a crew chief or even a tire changer, like there's a female on a NASCAR team now, you just never know who you're going to meet and who can inspire you. Like Danica Patrick didn't even know she was doing that to me that day, and look at where we are now. So if I can
Sharing
even
a gallery.
Yeah, exactly. If I can even just make one little girl's day of just something that they'll never forget, and letting them sit in my race car, which takes no effort for me. You know, just making sure they don't push any buttons. But yeah, don't touch that big red one. Anyone else, you can touch it, but not that one. But you just never know, like, what sort of impact you'll have on someone. Just like I said, Danica had for me back in the day. You just never know.
All right. We had another question over here, I believe. Yep.
Do you have more passion now about racing or back when you was a kid?
That's a very interesting question. I think probably now, because I understand it and know how much work it takes to get to that point. And I didn't know that back in the day. I was like, I want to be a race car driver. I'm just going to do it. Well, it's a lot more than just that. So I think I've proven to myself that I have the passion for it because I keep putting in that hard work and all that time to make this happen.
Got a question right here in the front.
Sarah, I have a geek question. What's the comparison for you between driving a GT3 Cup car and what I presume is a GT4 class, used to be all-wheel drive Audi?
Yeah, so the GT3 Cup car was actually on slick tires, and the Audi, we run DOT tires because that's just what the series requires. They're totally different. I mean, the GT3, that's an unfair question because we're having setup issues right now with the Audi. Go figure. But the GT3 just does whatever you want it to do. It just stuck to the ground, and if I wanted to just turn right and go drive in a field, it would literally do that. And the Audi has second thoughts about things sometimes. I'm just being dramatic because I'm salty at the Audi right at this second, but they're just totally different. You know, the balance, the Audi's way longer wheelbase, the Porsche's a little bit shorter. It just is more nimble, like a little go-kart. The Audi's a lot more like slow and takes a second to respond, I would say.
Okay.
Can I ask you what your normal day-to-day car is now?
Girl, I drive a Mazda 3. But it's cool because it's all-wheel drive and it's got a roof rack on it, so we're good.
So what is your next step?
My next step, so age is a real factor when it comes to racing, and especially being a female, if you ever wanted to like start a family, like that obviously hinders things too. My next goal is to just continue being in any sort of race car, any season. A lot of my friends who have gotten, you know, who are my age, who have been racing their whole life, are slowly starting to dwindle away because the funds are harder to find, especially with the economy. To this day, it's just hard to find companies that have just expendable income to give to something like a racing program. So for me, my biggest goal from here on out basically is to just be able to put my butt in a seat that is paid for, and because that's so hard to do. Of all my friends right now, I'm the only one who's still able to do it, and it's harder than people realize, and I'm just fortunate to be where I'm at here. But my ultimate goal is to just continue to be in a race car.
Any other questions? All right. Well, so that being said, Sarah, I want to thank you in reality for being here the first night last month when we had Shirley, because I know that was a monumental moment for you personally. And we joked that it really did set up the opportunity to be a tease, because it was one of those things where we were like, wow, that was enjoyable, and we didn't have the opportunity to dive into things with you personally. And so having that opportunity to have you back to do that is inspiring. I mean, for the people here today, the folks that will be able to watch this program later on, excuse me, and for the young ladies and the young men that you are inspiring, because you are an inspiration from that standpoint. We are grateful for you to being a part of our exhibits and being showcased in that opportunity, and your willingness to carry that torch. And so
Yeah,
for
thank
that, ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Montgomery. Sarah is going to hang around for a little bit, so if you've got questions, you're welcome to come on down. I believe she even brought some hero cards as well, so might be able to walk away with an autograph from that standpoint. But we appreciate y'all being with us today, and we look forward to having you back at Savoy soon.
Thank you, guys.